What's up, everyone? Welcome to a incredible Mythic Conversations tonight. We are breaking records here tonight because I have more guests on this show than I've ever had on Mythic Conversations. I'm not going to wait any longer. I was so jealous listening to these guys do their podcast every other week, just hearing how awesome it was for these five guys to have their conversation and share their love of the Legions lines. I wanted a piece of it for myself, so I brought them on. Of course, I'm talking about the Mythic Enablers. I'm going to bring them up one at a time. Actually returning to Mythic Conversations, I believe the only enabler that's been on Mythic Conversations before is Mr. Eric Miller. Eric, thank you so much for being a part of this tonight.
Thanks for having us, man. It's always fun.
Absolutely. Next, I'm going to bring up Noah. Noah, anything's posable. Noah, thank you very much for being a part of the show.
Hey, thanks for having us, man. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. Of course, we're going to bring up the brother Xavier. Michael, I was thinking about you last week while I was at the studio. You can actually see them behind me. I put them on my wall. I've got the LegionsCon 2024 2-packs. I needed to take some home for marketing reasons. But I've got in my room over there, I've got brother Xavier all set up, man.
I saw him posed in a picture online, man. I was so jealous. I was like, oh, they got the head on him. This is exciting.
Well, that's what I did at the show because I had the two-packs box there. And, obviously in the box, it's the orc heads on them. So I put the brother Xavier head and the repainted Atlas head on the figures in front. So, yeah, he was on display at ToyCon.
I'm not going to lie, man. It was a good moment to see that in my feed.
Nice. Next, we're going to bring up Y Guy.
Hey, first time caller, long time enabler. Excited to be here, Jeremy.
Nice to see you again. It has been a long time. I think of everyone here, you're the one who it's been the longest since I've had a chance to hang out with and talk to. So welcome very much.
Thanks.
And then just like on your show, we've got to bring up the last one, the Joe Bro who takes it all home. There he is.
Oh, no. Hey, what's up, everybody?
Look at this guy.
Thanks for having us on the show. Take it away, Jeremy.
There we go. I should have just had you do the intro. That would have been good. So super thrilled to have you all here today. It's funny, I reached out a couple weeks ago to see if you guys could come on, and I was talking with, Eric, and I was talking with Noah, and I love the fact that Noah sent me this photo, which the only thing missing from this photo is Michael, because he was apparently on his way to the venue at this point. This is the origin story of the Mythic Enablers, and I'm going to shamelessly take credit for helping bring you guys together. I know you've told your origin story before, but for those that may not know, Wyatt, maybe you can give us a little insight into this photo and how you guys all met for the first time.
For sure. Well, we had all kind of sort of become buddies, like through chat on Facebook. Like, I think individually we didn't have our group chat that became the Mythic Enablers group chat. Mm-hmm. But like, I knew of Noah. I had messaged Joe before. I had messaged Eric a little bit. I'd gotten a custom head from him. And so when we all met up at LegionsCon 2021, it felt like, I think Mike often calls it like Voltron, like all the parts coming together. And so we just ended up kind of hanging out like over the next couple days. And pretty soon after that, the group chat, the Mythic Enablers group chat was established. And we've been messaging in there for a couple of years before we even started the podcast. So
that's very, very cool. I mean, it made me super happy because it's no secret. Curtis likes to make fun of me for how often I talk about the enablers. Dude, I love audio podcasts. It fits really well with my listening preferences. And what I said at the start of the show is true, is I just enjoy hearing 5 friends who are excited and passionate about this stuff, able to share that. To be a fly on the wall of that is a lot of fun. Joe Vassapolo commented that he's listening while driving, that this is a backdoor enabler with me as the guest. So, Eric, I've had the chance to hang out with you at a number of shows. We got to spend some time together at IshCon recently, at MuskeCon earlier this year. And I can't be mistaken that this is something pretty special that you guys have. Being able to have this crew of people that you can chat with about this stuff every day, that's important.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I honestly consider these guys my best friends in the world. We talk every day. We talk about all sorts of stuff, not just toys. But yeah, they're awesome. I love them. I don't know, and actually I let them know this not that long ago, but I was just like, I don't know what I'd do without you guys, Mm-hmm. They really help keep me sane in an insane world.
Ditto, Eric. Ditto.
That is super cool. I do want to point out really quick, Dub said that he's wearing the same shirt that I am. So I would be remiss if I didn't give a little love. My friend Dave Orkin, his medieval creations, he actually sent me this shirt to check out. Really, really cool. And it when I got this shirt, guys, it was funny because I grew up like a little heavy metal kid, and there was this like t-shirt shop next to me. They sold like hash pipes and like rock t-shirts, and there was just a smell of like screen printed heavy metal t-shirts. And when I opened up this bag from David, it absolutely nostalgia brought me back to that. So thank you very much, Dave, for this shirt and for bringing me back to that interesting time in my life. All right, so let's talk here. So you guys met at LegionsCon 2021. Wyatt, that was the last LegionsCon you've been able to go to, but
yeah,
all 5 enablers, we've heard you on your show. You guys, you're all going to be at LegionsCon this year, which will be the first time that the group of 5 is back together since 2021?
At the same time.
Yeah.
Same time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Infinity Stones coming together.
Because you are in all different parts of the country. Mike, I know we were just talking before the show that you're actually in Jersey, not too far from the studio. Yeah. Joe, you're down in Orlando. We got to hang out earlier this year, and Joe brought me to that amazing restaurant, The Whiskey, and I had one of the best burgers I've ever had in my life.
Yes.
Amazing. You know what? He took me there. I don't want to interrupt, but Jeremy, he took me there too
when
I came to visit.
You're not supposed to.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Dates there, don't you?
Yeah.
That's the place.
And you know what? It was really good. He was like, "Oh yeah, this is like supposed to be really good," and I'm like, "Okay, it's Florida, whatever. I'm from California, like it's probably whatever." I show up, it's delicious. It was really, really great. It was the best food I had on that trip.
Why the only problem I had with it, when he told me we're going to go to the Whiskey, when I got there, I looked around at the decor, because the decor is all like, photos of like Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses. And I'm like, oh, this is supposed to be the Whiskey A Go-Go, which is a famous rock club in California.
Yep. In LA,
and they were playing like current pop hits. Like Motley Crue. Like if I'm in that building eating that burger, I want Kickstart My Heart played on a loop all throughout that restaurant. But besides that, it was amazing.
It was pretty solid.
I'm gonna put in a complaint with management. You know what I'm gonna say? My buddy Jeremy, he was not happy with Taylor Swift. He wants to hear Poison.
And don't get me wrong, I do love Taylor Swift, but
everybody loves Tay-Tay. Come on.
Not a big
man. You don't want that smoke.
Noah, 2021, you weren't even exhibiting. You are now an exhibitor. You've been an exhibitor at LegionsCon the last few years. Amazing dioramas, photography, customs. You're kind of that triple threat type exhibitor that we got going over here. But that was the year that you had a couple dials on the Wolf King table, and we're just kind of testing the waters. You know, were you newer? Because I actually don't know when you got into the Legions line. Were you newer at 2021 or just newer to kind of exhibiting?
No, I definitely was. I wasn't new at that point in time, nor was I a veteran by any means. I think all of us, except for Eric, pretty much got in essentially in the same time, like within a span of probably 4 months or something like that. It's pretty funny how that worked out. When was it, guys? It was.
It was. Yeah, it was like the
Early
tail.
2020.
Very early, like the tail end of, for me, it was like December 2019, and then all through up like the first couple months of 2020. It's like our graduating class.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Cabal folks that came in around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's a good time to get onto the line too. It was interesting because it was right like during / after COVID or whatever, and it was hard to get Legions at the time. Like there was no. I remember there's like 1.0 figures were like nowhere, and there was a bunch of like Advent of Decay figures that were still on Big Bad Toy Stores. So it was like playing like catch up with a lot of figures for a while.
I've heard
the
you
new
guys
Legionnaires
talk
don't
about that.
know about like
Yeah.
that time frame. Like the new guys don't know about the drought that there was. Like,
But I've heard you guys talk about that period of time. Joe, I've heard you talk about that when there were all those Advent of Decay figures that were available on Big Bad Toy Store for what seemed like forever at that point, and being able to go on there and get like a couple at a time every few weeks.
months.
That's around the time when you guys got into it, and there was at least some Legions out there to get. Am I correct in that?
yeah. Oh yeah. You could pick up Ravana.
Oh yeah, Xylona was on Big Bad Toy Store.
And the
When
thing is
Heavens
with
Brian.
those, like
Yeah.
those figures in particular, that you just said, Ravana, Xylona, right? Hera was on there, and it's almost like, you know, the term like peg warmer, right? I don't want to say
Yeah.
something like disrespectful,
Oh, yeah.
but at that time, it felt like there was such an abundance because they were there for so long. When
Yeah.
everything else was just sold out, like you had Azza was on there, like you could just hop on. You would, like, people definitely took that for granted.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. And now they're like some of the most sought after figures.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, you know, my partner in LegionsCon, Joe Viteri, I distinctly remember this conversation where he had like a case of Fallon Frostbow, and he like couldn't give her away. And he was like, I think I'm just going to do like combo packs where I'm going to get rid of like three Fallons for $100. I mean,
Oh my God.
you can't touch one Fallon for $100.
No.
Nope.
Which
No.
it's well, it's because it's an interesting point, because you guys, you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on, and it's interesting because right now there's a large quantity of Legions that are available, whether it's from Store Horsemen or whether it's from the retailers. More Legions, more variety of Legions than have ever been available, and it's interesting because I'm starting to see some like newer fans kind of take that for granted a little bit. Like these things are going to be available forever. And all of us who have been around for a while know that that's going to flip. And there's that point that the minute like Big Bad sells out of something, the price immediately goes up. And it seems like everyone suddenly wants that figure, right?
Yep, the
Yeah.
late
Yeah.
tax.
The
I-
latex.
I saw somebody in the chat mention the 24 Thistlethorns
Yeah.
meme that's been around forever, and that was very indicative of that, where it was like, and you still get posts. It's like, oh, there's 10 Cavern Dwarf builders left on Store Horsemen, and then suddenly like they're gone so
Boom.
fast, you know. Yeah, it's definitely, we talk about it in the podcast, and I think we've been saying this since we started back in March or whatever, but it's a really good time to be collecting Legions, because for a long time you had to really dig to find some of these older figures and find older collectors who are willing to let them go. And then, I don't know, there was an abundance period like we talked about from Big Bad Toy Store for a while, but that has definitely changed, and now these Advent of Decay figures are super desirable and hard to come by. So
Yeah. But now you've also got so many more vendors and retailers that like back then it was
True.
just Big Bad Toy Store, and now you've got so many retailers that you have a lot of options to choose from. You've got a lot of places to go to find them. So they don't sell out like, I mean, they do sell out, but they don't sell out like once Big Bad was done, that was it. Then all of a sudden aftermarket prices go up, but you still have like fallback vendors you can kind of slide over to now, and it's just kind of nice to have that.
For sure.
The thing is too, though, I mean, like everything is around and it's readily available until it's not. And it really only takes that first person to notice that it's like, hey, well, it used to be before there's only 23 left on Big Bad Toy Store, and it would be gone in like 10 minutes. Then people would get mad, like, why are you telling everybody it's making itself faster? It's going to get to where, Big Bad Toy Store might be one of the last ones to sell out, but maybe your top 3 other vendors are gone. And then people just gonna start, hey, well, Horsehead is out of this, and Mallfish is out of this too. And then before you know it, then they're gonna start hitting, and it's kind of create the same kind of run that it would do. And they're gonna disappear before your eyes. And then it won't be long before you're like, man, I sure wish I could get a Dwarf DLX builder. Those are the glory days.
The one that I always remember is actually Torgen Redfin from the Coliseum.
Oh yeah.
Torgen was kind of an under-ordered figure. He wasn't, and this isn't even a dwarf crack, everybody. He was a lower ordered figure in that wave. And he was one that didn't get a lot of love. And I distinctly remember him selling out at Big Bad Toy Store. And it felt like overnight, they were all $75, $85 on eBay. Like immediately, everyone who had been waiting on him came out of the woodwork and were like, what do you mean he sold out? I've been waiting for him. It's like you've had months to get him. And that's part of, I think anyone that's collected for a while, any line, that's part of the cycle of toys is there's always figures that are produced in higher numbers for, we do everything on pre-order. So, higher pre-orders mean higher numbers, but you're always going to get those figures that are sleepers for whatever reason that suddenly they come and go and they become very hard to find. And we're getting to that point for sure.
That Torgen hit the spotlight because I remember everybody grabbed the Torgen and Krona, and there was a lot of that, both of those figures. There's an abundance of those too.
Not a lot of 1.0 bodies at the time either. John.
Right. Everybody wanted to make barbarians.
They're making that barbarian out of them.
Yeah.
Because there was no barbs and everybody wanted a barb. So
I snagged one of those last Torgens right before they sold out too.
I did the same thing.
Because that was shortly after I started. I think I was only in it for like a few weeks at that point. Yeah. And then not long after was the in-stock sale with them too. And that was like one of like the last in-stock sales they did where it was like kind of nightmare-y with the time where you had to go to check out and you were like chilling for like 40 minutes. You didn't know what you were going to get, but I was lucky and I got one there too.
Oh, those were rough days. Well, there was a point. It's funny as we're kind of going down memory lane talking about this. There were cycles too, because I'm sure you all remember, Eric, as a customizer, I'm sure you remember, and Noah, those periods where you could not find a Legion builder anywhere. Like Legion builders, which were created to be the lower priced figures for building out armies and customizing. There was points where you would spend more for a Legion builder than you would for a full regular figure because they were just so hard to find. And now there's just a plentiful amount of them on Four Horsemen.
Yeah, Legion builders and like the guys were saying, the 1.0 bodies too. Mm-hmm. I remember like I was buying like John Cena figures because I needed bare arms, and I was like, I can't pay like 60, 70 plus for a figure just to rip the arms off, So I'm glad we're past the John Cena days. Like I don't want to use those anymore.
Well, Joe mentioned Krona. I remember that period. Krona and Purplor, they were available at Big Bad Toy Store, and a lot of people were buying Krona and Purplor to either paint them orc green or, like a barbarian type, flesh colored, because that's all that was available back then to do those barbarians and orcs.
I wanted to ask all you guys, how many barbarians do you think are out there that have like purple elbow joints?
A lot, buddy, a lot.
They do.
And it was not a certainty either that there were going to be these reissues, that they were going to come back around or come back in a different capacity. Like there was talks, right, about evergreen was a phrase that people used for a long time, evergreen builders. And in a way that's like kind of what we're living in right now. So, but there was it was like, oh, that might be years from now or never,
Yeah, the idea of always in stock evergreen, I've said this before, that is so hard to plan out because it's not like we're 3D printing these things to demand. So if there is a run on something and we sell out, this is going to shock you, but it's not a quick process making toys. It takes approximately 2 years, apparently.
You're talking to five
I think
guys
we
that definitely know
that.
that.
we totally feel you on that.
We've been very patient. we were joking about how we all met during the Poxus reveal, and like we've now like known each other for several years, started a podcast, we're like 16 episodes in, and finally got Poxus. Like we know how we're here for the process.
I find myself sometimes in other toy groups for like different lines where people are complaining about the time to create them, and I'm like, you don't understand. It's not an overnight thing. Like it takes time. Like, what do you know? And I'm like, I know something.
We could spend so much time on this. It's so funny because no one wants these things into people's hands more than we do. And every time something happens at the factory level that is going to cause a delay. I mean, we sit there and we say, like, is it worth delaying this for another couple weeks to fix this problem? And
the answer is yes.
The
answer is yes.
We have, certainly in the years I've been there, we've never pushed something forward to get it out faster if we know it's not right. Anything that's gotten out that's not correct, it got past us. It's a mistake. But it kills us that we're getting, like Cloud is mentioning, that we're getting near the 2-year mark for Necronominus. Absolutely. I jokingly say that, but trust me, it's hurts my heart to know that those aren't in hand yet.
I don't know. I think there's a patience game that comes with, like, or maybe not patience, but Mythic Legions teaches you something about waiting for the good thing, and so now I don't even pay attention to the pre-order periods anymore, or how long they end up being. It's just kind of like when it comes, it's going to be great, and it'll be like a really nice surprise to not have to spend a bunch of money. It'll just show up and I passed why it did that, so it's fine.
That's what we paid for. Mike always says this, and I agree with him so much, but he always, like, whenever there's delays on the schedule or whatever, he always says the same thing, and I love it because he puts it all into a great perspective, is that he'd rather wait a little bit extra time and get like a really good high-end quality product at the end, which is what you guys always put out.
Yeah.
And so we'll just take that extra, just sit there, you've already paid for it, just sit back, relax, wait for it to happen. When you get it, you're going to be happy that those delays happen, because you're going to have the best product that you can possibly
Absolutely.
get.
It's
and you know what? Like the person who's complaining about a figure taking X amount of time to produce is loud, and I understand, because like we're excited and there's a patience game with it, and that could be frustrating, but there is nobody in the room that's louder than the fan that paid money for something, gets it, and the quality is not up to par, because you're going to hear it from that guy. So at the end of the day, I always tell people, like, you can't please everybody, but you guys are taking the time to do it, to make sure it's done right. And I think that we can all speak for the majority of the fans. We want a high quality product, and that's what puts us in line. That's what drew many of us to it.
And honestly, I think our community is incredibly positive and understanding.
Overwhelmingly.
You definitely get, you post something and there's a comment in there that's like, what about Necronominus, when the post has nothing to do with Necronominus. I get it. We all want these out. That's why we try to be as incredibly transparent as possible. But it is kind of funny, because one thing that at the studio we joke about is when we were doing the Necronominus wave, we were like, there's so many ideas that it can't fit into one wave. So we'll do Necronominus and All-Star 6 that use the same tooling. We'll do Ox Crew 1 and Ox Crew 2 that uses the same tooling. That way, it'll be like a 1-2 punch, which that works great until there's a delay. And then you've just delayed 2 waves instead of 1 wave. So
Look at that.
It's like we've joked about this, where we're like, you know what? We kind of bit ourselves a little bit by putting them together. But once it gets delivered, they'll come out right after another, and that'll benefit. Wyatt?
Oh, yeah. So we mentioned to Jeremy, he was like, how do you guys record the podcast and not like all over talk each other? And because we don't release a video podcast, nobody would see this, but we sometimes raise our hands to like get a word in. Yeah, I wanted to ask about that, because it feels like, do you think that it was the studio's intention to give the collectors this period of like kind of, it is a bit of an abundance period. Like the line is so big. There's so many figures. We've got a lot of reissues that have happened and stuff like that, and we're all super psyched about it. And is it like something that people should maybe not be taking so much for granted right now? Was it an intentional thing or a not so intentional thing? I'm kind of curious as a collector and a fan, what your opinions are on that.
The abundance of stuff.
Yeah. Because it hasn't always been the case, like we're talking about.
No. Well, so one of the things that is true, I mean, you guys are you guys are all like diehards where you buy a lot of stuff, but even amongst yourselves, you know, Joe is not a huge Cosmic fan. Joe is, you know, very much likes his Knights and his Mythics and stuff, but Joe is not, you know, he's not collecting Cosmic the way that, say, Eric is. Fair enough? So when we think about these stuff and we put this stuff out, you can't kind of plan out the amount you're putting out for the person that's going to buy multiples of everything. Because if you do that, you're going to scale back what you do. You're going to be like, hey, we can't overdo it. We've got to respect their wallets a little bit. But more and more as we grow, we're finding people that rightfully so pick and choose. You know, they don't necessarily feel like they have to buy every single item. So what we're really trying to do here is make sure that there's a lot of different options. So people that may not want to get everything have access to something they're going to find cool.
Well, it's pretty fantastic too, because you know, I'm in other collecting groups like Mezco and stuff like that, and I'll see people posting a Boreas or a Balius, you know, with their Conan or something like that. You know, it's or the oh man, the moose is leaving my brain right now. Alder. People post Alder, you know, and it's cool to see these crossover, or like goblins with various other fantasy things, you know.
Yeah, for sure. You see a lot of that with, you mentioned Conan, a lot with the Mezco Conan stuff for sure.
That's what pulled me in, guys, was the initial the crossover potential. I had 0 vested in the lore, and I would say that lasted all of like maybe 5 days, and then I started reading the bios, and it was the most expensive reading I ever did in my life.
Now you're a completionist. Now you have the whole line.
Yeah.
Well, let's change gears a little bit, because, you know, there were some announcements that have come out. You know, the big announcement last week, I did it on the show, was the Legion's Armory experience. So we teased that previously. We revealed what it was. I know you recently recorded an episode. Were you able to talk about that on your episode? Give people a little sneak peek? Was that part of the recent Enablers episode?
Yeah, we talked about it at length, but that episode's not coming out until Monday. So we'll talk about it here first.
I'm happy to talk about it again, because it's so
here
cool.
now.
Yeah, and I wasn't here for it, so
that's right. Mike missed it. Spoiler alert.
Mike, I'd love to hear what you think, Mike, but I would be remiss if I didn't start with Joe Bro. Because as this thing was getting programmed, I was just like, Joe thought that the ISF figure earlier this year was going to be the big surprise for the year for him. But this armory experience with all these knights, this has to be the thing that Joe's most excited for.
I mean, it's not really for me. I'm probably just going to pass on the whole thing. I don't know. There's other stuff to check out there. I heard that there might be like a furry convention going on at the hotel that weekend too, so maybe I'll go check that out. You know.
Well, are you, when you saw that, I know the answer to this because you were texting me about it when you saw it, but what did you guys think? Hit me up. What did you think about that experience? Something different, something new? Was this something that you guys found exciting?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like, all of us are excited about it. I'll let everybody speak for themselves, but the idea of like the Build-A-Figure is cool because it's been talked about in the community for so long. Like, can't we just get parts? Like, we just want to buy legs, or we just want to buy a torso, or we just want to buy arms, and like that's hard to accomplish. And you've talked about like the logistics behind why that's like not really a feasible, plan for you guys to move forward with that. So this is kind of like it felt like a cool way for you guys to sort of deliver on that in a way, but at the same time, like also bring like a whole figure to somebody's hands. And you get to like build the parts. You had to do it the way you did it with like specific sets of parts and specific color matches. But it really, I mean, the parts you chose are like really like cohesive, great pieces. The color schemes are amazing. The red knight, like Eric jumped right on board with it right off the bat, and I was not I was not there fully in the very beginning when I saw just like the teaser with the heads, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about the red. And then you guys, but I was like, but I reserve to hold out judgment until I see how the whole figures look. Man, that red knight is the star of the show. It's so good. That little black wash is subtle but so sharp. Yeah, the whole thing's really, really cool, and I actually kind of dig sort of like an underrated part of it that not a lot of people are talking about is that like you go through your line, you build your figure, and at the end of it, you guys give us a box to put it into.
Yeah.
I really thought that was a nice little touch, not to have it like in a plastic bag, which was sort of like you could have just kind of mailed that last part in, but you didn't. And I like that you guys really go the extra mile and think about it all the way through.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Eric, you got to actually see these in person at LegionsCon because we had those Green Knights up there. So it must have been exciting for you to finally be able to see this reveal and talk about it with all of the rest of the enablers.
For sure. Yeah. It's I talked about it on the show, but I had a second where I was like, do I show the guys? Do I not show the guys? Like, what do I do?
He was so secretive.
Yeah. So
he was so nervous.
Yeah, I ended up showing them, but I was like, do not say a word about this. Like, let it belong to the people at the show. But yeah, I mean, that green was awesome. It was like the first thing you guys put out too. Like, I remember setting up my table and looking over and kind of doing a double take, like, what? Wait, what's that over there? And I went over and looked and like instantly like pulled out my phone and then like thought like, oh crap, like they just watched me like take pictures. But yeah, I mean they're beautiful. And I'm so excited for them. And I love that green. I love it a lot. But when I saw the red, I was like, that's the one for me, for sure.
It's funny. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show, but we intentionally didn't bring purple to LegionsCon because it would have been so easy with, the whole purple gang. We didn't want it to become a joke. Like we didn't want people to think that we were just playing around and having fun and, doing the whole purple gang thing. So that is why we brought the green, so they wouldn't kind of become a gag and it would be something that people genuinely would ask about.
As a fan of the Convocation of Basilia, I'm scared now that you have to think about the Purple Gang's influence on what purple items you reveal in the future. So just wanted to put that out there.
It won't stop us from putting out anything purple. It was just, like I said, we didn't want it because they had such a big presence there to be perceived that it was, something other than it was.
Totally understandable.
So, Mike, you didn't have a chance to talk about this, so let's give you a little bit of a platform to do so. What were your thoughts when you saw this?
I was really excited that there was something new to look forward to at the con. It's been an experience every year, and it seems like year to year there's been a massive upgrade to the show in every way imaginable. We talked about we all came together at 2021, and if someone went to only that show and then just last year, they could have been two completely different shows. Just in terms of the venue themselves, just everything about it. It was bigger in scale. I think everybody has now been doing it for a few years, so everybody's displays are just much more elaborate. So you kind of wonder, like, what are you guys gonna do to keep it fresh and exciting? So it was really nice to see you guys bring something like this to the table. I did want to ask you, is there any truth to the rumor that it was, instead of the Armory experience, it was originally called the Joe Russo experience, or is that just completely fabricated?
Yeah, that was the working title.
They tried to get contractual with me, and I was like, no. You're gonna have to pay for that. I'm gonna need a full head sculpt, and CB just wasn't having it. So
yeah, Joe was pulling his weight around too much.
Yeah.
So
well, he can't have everything. So yeah, to give and take. The Armory experience works. I think it's really cool to have basically like a studio sanctioned kit bash, kind of like an original, like an authentic release. With that said, we talked about being completionist, and I told the guys on the side, the completionist in me is like, my brain's going like haywire. I'm like, how? I can't build every combination. But you kind of got it. It's like a double-edged sword, right? So
yeah, and we talked about that, to be honest with you. And it's like, I don't know from a completionist mindset, it's like, do you need every single piece that's in the armory? Like, would you need the armory master box with every possible piece in that set to consider yourself complete? I mean, I guess some people would say that that's really what they would need. And that was something we absolutely considered, whether this is going to create problems for people from that perspective. But like anything else, we're trying to do different things. You mentioned, growing the con. Like, I guarantee Wyatt's going to be like, his head's just going to be on a swivel this year because he hasn't seen the growth in person over the last few years. So I have to imagine that this is going to be like a wow. This has grown dramatically in the few years since I've been here. But yeah, that spirit to try to do different things, try something different. Frankly, guys, I'm nervous about this. I don't know how this is going to go. Like, we could absolutely be shooting ourselves in the foot with this experience, but we're trying to be fearless in the sense to not let that uncertainty prevent us from doing it.
In the Monday podcast that will be coming out after this live stream, we recorded it yesterday or a couple days ago. I said that to me, it feels like when you go to Disneyland and they have like the build your own lightsaber experience, like that was the vibe that I'm getting and what got me really jazzed. So I'm super excited. And I constantly ask the guys too, because I've had to live vicariously through them at the past couple LegionsCons. I'm like, what is it going to be like? Because the last time it was just a little side room, and they're like, it's a lot different. So I'm really excited to get to hang out there. It'll be fun.
Wyatt still hasn't seen a life-size character.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I haven't. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Because
that's an experience.
Because the shows you have been to, Wyatt, you've been to a few shows on the West Coast, but obviously shipping a 10-foot ogre to the West Coast is problematic. It's hard enough to get, Jim and George out there, much less Kurzog.
And that ogre always wants to fly first class.
He does. He's a diva. He is
Talk about throwing your weight
very,
around
very
like
bougie
that.
ogre.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know. I that was what I was going to say, though, was I was like, even though, because before we started the show, we were talking about shows that we've all been to recently a little bit before the show started. And on the West Coast, we're really dry on shows. There's just it's not as concentrated. There's not as much going on over here. But I did get to go to Designer Con recently. I got to see some of the guys from the studio and, of course, the Mythic meetup in California. So I'm excited to make my pilgrimage back to the Mythic Mecca later this year. How
far are you away from Anaheim?
I am. Oh, and that's a funny thing too. I was like, I'm going to PowerCon this year, and then PowerCon was like, we're going to Ohio. So, thanks. I was super excited for Eric, but no, I'm like 2-3 hours away from Anaheim, so it would have been doable. But
we're gonna have something early next year in Anaheim, so we are trying to get out to the West Coast more often.
Okay, cool.
For sure.
If you ever need a hand,
there we go. Keep that in mind. Noah, how about yourself? What were you thinking about when you saw these? Is this something you're excited for? Is this something you plan to do?
Absolutely. I mean, I envision myself just as a medieval gentleman, just taking a stroll down the old main drag, and then I pop into the local smithy and an armor shop, and I take a stroll through there as I've got people helping me get fit up for my kit and all that. I'm pretty stoked. I'm excited about it. And I just wanted to mention before I forget, Wyatt, you're talking about droughts in California with as far as legions go and shows. Come to the Midwest, please, sometime.
That's fair.
I cordially invite you.
Well, not Eric's Midwest, your Midwest.
Yeah,
a little further west.
The upper Midwest.
Okay, so geographically challenged over here. I thought Ohio was the Midwest. Where are we talking? What Midwest are you talking about?
Yeah, Ohio is the Midwest. Eric's kind of like my closest neighbor out of everybody here. But,
where are you talking about that we should look to get to?
So I'm in Minnesota. So
Minnesota,
I would be like, my comrades would be like Dennis and Eugene and Nick and some of those, Pat Patterson.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So, yep, up in the Minnesota.
Okay. That's an area of the country just outside of Legions that I haven't spent much time in. I'm actually going to Montana next year, and it's an area that I've never been to, so I'm a little unsure of what I'm getting myself into.
Montana can be very beautiful. The landscape is awesome. I don't know how much toy shopping and things like that there is. I'm unfamiliar with it that way, but I've traveled through Montana many times.
Well, I'm going to Glacier National Park, so
Oh.
I'm there for the
cool.
beauty and not the toys
There
on
you
that
go.
particular trip.
Yeah, I was wondering if you're doing some sort of figure obscura cryptid hunting or something like that
It's
over
all
in
recon,
Montana.
man. It's all
That's a
recon.
good guess. Maybe I will do some of that cryptid hunting while I'm there. So, Eric and Noah, I'm curious because you are both, customizers. You do a lot of painting. You have, like heads for sale at LegionsCon. Are you planning to paint up any heads specifically for the armory experience? Because the fact that these all come with helmets, it's a perfect, canvas to kind of pop a custom head on and have a very different look. They can even cradle the helmet under the arm or something. So is that anything you're thinking about? I know some other customizers have mentioned that.
Noah?
I was waiting for Eric to go.
No, you
that's
go.
that Midwest. That's that Midwest.
Gotta raise your hands, kids.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you asked. Every single head that I have at my table will be great on the Armory Experience figures.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
Not
sorry, no.
specifically. Not specifically, but I would like to think that in a way, I think they would all kind of look cool on there.
I mean, anything that's just a human head, like an unarmored, unhelmeted head is going to look awesome on those things. So, in a way, there's going to be just thousands of options in that room from people who didn't even intend for that to be an option. Probably.
Think about the armored Medusas.
Armory Medusas.
Those are gonna be
I did
rad.
think the first thing I thought of, and I don't know why I went straight to this, but I thought of the heads that Brian Burke showed at the first LegionsCon we went to at 2021 that he calls the Eventide.
Oh,
that have,
yeah,
like
the
the half
vampire hunters.
vampire mask.
Yeah.
It's like, man, those would look sweet painted
Yeah.
to match that red.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to his website and ordered a handful of those. So
Nice.
So you are. There we go.
yeah, that's the one idea I had, and those are not going to be like my priority, but they're like maybe like third or fourth on my priority list. So
Yeah.
hopefully I get to them. But
Definitely.
I did get those specifically to match that red armor because I think that would make for a really cool looking figure.
And it looks
There he
like-
is.
There he is.
Bry guy, what's up, buddy?
I will have to point this one out too, because somebody said the Ohio hate in here is real. Just for the record, I've only been to Ohio for PowerCon for Columbus, and I loved it. I was shattered this year that PowerCon wasn't happening for a few reasons, because I really, really liked downtown Columbus. The entire Four Horsemen crew had a blast down there. So no Ohio hate from this side. Great time over there.
I don't get it, man. People hate Ohio, but I love it, and it's whenever anyone hates on Ohio, like I'm always just like, have you seen any of the states that surround Ohio? Because they're all awful. Ohio rules.
I
That
think
skyline. It's that
That's
skyline chili, dude.
Dude, Skyline Chili, that's the reason to live here. It's the reason I can never leave.
No.
Eric,
I was
is
gonna-
that
Oh, go
the
ahead, Noah.
Ohio state motto? Like, have you seen the other states?
have you seen our neighbors?
It should be.
We're not as
My
bad
goodness.
as those guys. Have you been to
I have to
Indiana?
drive through Pennsylvania every year I go to LegionsCon. Dude, it is not fun.
I think all of our dream is to go to Eric's farm in Ohio and get to hang out with the emus and the chickens and and if you listen to the Mythic Enablers podcast, you'll catch some of the farm life every once in a while in the edit because it's just impossible to remove it all.
Guys, we only have so much time tonight. That's why we skipped the raccoon update. But I was, in the early draft of the script, we were going to go right from the raccoon update right to Mike talking about his car updates. But we had
Sorry, man.
You do listen to the show. Okay.
Raccoon
Dude, it's the
And I
best.
don't-
I love it.
I listen to it and I don't fast forward those parts. You know, I told Eric this when I saw him at IshCon, but the raccoon stuff cracks me up. Like when he was talking about how raccoons love marshmallows, but barn cats hate them. I was like, that's genius. I went and
I know.
told my wife, I was like, raccoons love marshmallows, barn cats don't.
It's
She's like,
useful
what are you
information.
talking about?
Yeah.
It's useful.
She's like, you're not allowed to listen to the Mythic Enablers podcast anymore. You're
Well,
done.
Eric
Cut off.
laughingly said that, you know, it amuses him, the kind of stuff that is so commonplace in his life that everyone else finds like very, very amusing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dude, I absolutely totally listen to the podcast. I love it. And again, like I said, it is just being like a fly on the wall and getting to hear you guys geek out about stuff. But I also like to hear, because we try to have our finger on the pulse of what the community is talking about. And, you know, what you guys are, you're our customers. Like, you are who we make this stuff for. You know, so we like to hear you guys talk about it. And, you know, that's one thing I will give you is you guys are always very positive. You're absolutely super fans, but you also don't shy away from having constructive criticism. You know, if there's something that you're like, hey, I really like this, I wish it would have maybe done like this or whatever. It's great to hear that stuff, because hearing that kind of feedback can only make things better. So, I mean, genuinely, I enjoy it, and I thank all of you for having the passion and positivity that you do.
I think it comes with, like, if I could say a little bit, I think it comes with time and having had the opportunity to come and visit and meet, you know, folks from the studio and get to attend these kinds of events, because it gives you a little bit more of an understanding on sort of the process. It's also been really cool, like, since we started the podcast, seeing things like Noah delve into creating like sculpts and things like that, you know. And I think every time we're surrounded, Mike and I like to joke, and even Mike is more talented. Mike does photography, but we're surrounded by these talented people. Joe can paint, Eric can paint, Noah can paint, Noah's doing sculpts, you know. Mike does amazing photography. I just edit the podcast, and that's how I get to stick around. But it's amazing to get to be surrounded by these guys. And I think, you know, in the same way that the studio, the Four Horsemen, are creating a little bit of art that we get to buy every once in a while, like, we get to understand a little bit more about how that works. So, yeah, big fans.
You sell yourself short sometimes, Wyatt, and I don't know if you're just doing it like self-deprecating, but you have a way of explaining, like the way you just explained that situation and everything and what everyone's contributions are. You summarize things very, very well. I think I've heard you guys talk about Wyatt being kind of the glue that holds things together in some ways, and I very much can see that as being the case.
Yep.
Well, I
He's got a
appreciate
20
it.
charisma score. His modifier is +5. He's
Mike is our
Excellent
DM. He would
communicator.
know. Yeah.
So,
Plus,
by
look
the
at
by
that
the
hair.
way,
How-
you
how-
you
I mean, how could
you
you
owe
not
me
want
some
Wyatt
stuff on the
around?
side, Wyatt.
so that's a
Some
great.
time to do it.
That's actually a great segue there. So you guys,
Get him, Mike.
not only do you have your chat that you just talk about this stuff, and I am curious, when we drop something like this morning, when we announced that the 2024 retailer wave is on the water, does that immediately blow up the chat? Is that immediately when there's a news drop, you guys are just on it talking about your impressions?
At times, yes.
Yeah.
A lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
times, yes.
This morning, the chat started out with me like shooting over the post for that. The retailer wave is on
Yep.
the water. Like, that's how our chat started this morning. Just firing
Right.
that over to everybody.
And then a follow up with
Absolutely,
Mike
we talked
sending.
about it.
We always like to joke. Mike sends like no offense to Mike, but he sends like 3 of the same photo of a new post he's gonna make. If you don't follow Michael Xavier on Instagram, you should check him out. But he'll always send us like 3 or 4 variations of a very close photo. And I looked at, and I just do what I always do. Where I go, "You did great, Mike." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. I reused terrain that I used last year." And I'm like, "I've seen all of your work. I have no idea what terrain you've reused."
Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen Mike's work plenty of times. Mike, we've actually posted your work in our channels a number of times. Yeah, it's big fan as well. Big fan.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
the
you.
stuff that blows up in our chat. Like if we
Yeah.
see like a horseman post that has one of Mike's photos, like, dude, Mike, they featured your
You
photo.
made it.
This is amazing.
Well, I think like we're all really, really big fans of each other, and nobody roots harder for anyone in this
Oh,
group than the guys in this group.
Yep.
So it's I don't know any other way to put it, man. Like I'm a genuine fan of all of these dudes, and everybody kind of has their lane. Like Wyatt was saying, Noah has a whole highway because he just kind of dips his hands in all the different lanes.
He's the producer. Yeah.
I'm in the
Yeah, he's got a hand in everything. It's painting, photography, dios. He does it all. But I'm just big fans of these guys, and I was lucky enough to actually become friends with them.
So I do have to ask: is Noah always this chill? Like, because he always is just so, just like mellow and stuff. Like, I kind of want to just feed him like 20 donuts and just sugar him up. Because I'm pretty high energy, and every time I hear Noah, I'm looking at him. He's such a cool cat.
The answer to that question is yes. Like,
That's a Noah answer right there. Noah will tell you he'll go the long answer to that. Yes.
Well, Mike, I will tell you, I'll give you a little like a behind the scenes type thing. I'm the one that selects all those photos to share. I am being 100% honest. I never select them based on the artist's name. I don't even look at the artist's name when I'm selecting. So I'm scrolling through to see different photos. Like if I'm like, hey, I want to do a feature on Arazak. So I'm looking for photos of Arazak, and I'm looking who tagged us, who used the hashtag Arazak. I am picking the photos I want to share, not the artists. But if I see a photo I love and then I look and it's an artist and I see the Michael Xavier, I'm so excited. Like when it's a great photo, because that's the whole thing. It's got to be a great photo. When I see that and then I realize it's an artist I know and I love and I know he's a good dude or she's a good dude, that just is like the cherry on top of that. So every one of those photos that get shared, they are being shared 100% because the quality of the art itself.
That really means a lot.
Yeah.
You have no idea. Seeing something, because it's not like a lot of people that take pics, they put a lot of time and effort into it, and you can always tell. So you don't do it for people to say, hey, that's awesome. It very is much a self-satisfaction thing. But I'm not going to lie. When someone else says, hey, this is great, like you genuinely appreciate it, and these guys, they hype me up like there's no tomorrow. They've been very, very good for my confidence. It's like mental therapy sometimes talking to these guys.
You're great, Mike. And you stimulate the diorama community, the diorama economy heavily.
That I do. I will very arrogantly take ownership of that one. I definitely stimulate the dio economy for sure. But thank you for saying that.
Bruce Gale Greg is saying that I think most of these guys at my reveal was special to me. I had to not look at Mike or the waterfalls would have started.
That's because the waterfalls were starting. Did you see when he went up to that table? That was an emotional moment, man. I was sitting there right next to Joe, and I'm like, bro, they gave him his own figure.
So,
Mike, a tissue.
Mike, I do know that you have to bail out a little early tonight. So, before you have to do that, looking ahead a little bit to this year's LegionsCon, other than what we just talked about for the armory experience and certainly getting the Brother Xavier figure in hand, are there any other things that you are very excited for this year, or maybe that you're hoping for this year? I mean, speculation shows can be one of two ways, but I'm always happy to hear what people are excited and what they're hoping is going to come out.
I would say first and foremost, and I feel like this answer is expected, it's seeing the guys and all of our other friends. The experience of the con itself is here. It's excellent. If you're brand new to the line, you don't know anybody, you do have to go and experience the con, because LegionsCon it's the top of the mountain as far as being a collector of this line. But beyond that, the relationships and the friendships that you form in this group, and my wife always tells me I sound like a Hallmark card, but it's true. Everybody's all over the country, and it's it's one time a year where you really get to meet up with everybody, and at least for a couple days, you forget all your personal problems, all the real stressors that you have in your life, and just mellow out with your friends and really, really have a good time. As far as directly dealing with the lines themselves, I'm always excited. GCon has me pumped. I'm very excited to see, because you always want to see how you guys are going to top yourselves. We talked about how you do it with the show. So how are you going to top doing a bear last year? It's like, I want to know, like that was an incredible reveal. I wound up showing a GCon a little bit late last year. I had some unfortunate stuff going on in the morning. But I was able to get in there right before you guys revealed the bear. And it meant a lot to be able to be there, because we've all been hearing about it from the day we all got into the line, pretty much. So very, very much looking forward to that. Looking forward to putting some toys together in the armory experience, and really just seeing how everybody's up their game at their tables. I mean, I can speak for myself. I spent hours walking around, like just doing laps inside those rooms. And it doesn't matter how many times I walk around, you always find something new on somebody's table that you didn't notice the first 3 times that you walked around.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, the amount of stuff.
It is.
It's one of the reasons they were joking on the afternoon show that the show starts at 8 this year instead of 9. But that's one of the reasons we did it, because people were like, we need more time. Like, we want more time at the actual show. A number of people had asked for like a Friday night VIP night, and I'm dead set against doing that. So I was like, hey, we'll open up an extra hour each day. That'll at least be 2 total extra hours for the show. But yeah, Mike, I almost think about like what you're saying is, and we've heard other people say this, like, you go to the show for the experience and the people, and the fact that you get to walk away with all these cool new toys, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah, it really is. And I didn't mention it because you had said it, but Brother Xavier in hand, this show, can't wait.
Yes.
I can't wait for you to get that, Mike, and open it up. That's going to be definitely a photographic moment that we're going to have to get.
Yeah, I might have the waterfalls there.
I
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for having me on the show. It was great being here with all you guys again. I do have to cut out a little bit earlier than everybody else, but thank you so much for having all of us on here tonight. And boys, I will talk to you guys later.
Bye, Mike. Thanks for coming on, man.
Have a good night, guys.
Mikey.
So what about you guys? What things are you most excited for? What things are you looking for? Joe Bro, let's start with you. Again, we already talked about the armory. Is there any other things besides, we don't need to just do a love fest and talk about how we're all excited to see each other. That's a given. What other, let's talk Legions. What other stuff are you excited for?
The dragon. I can't wait for you guys to bust that out this year. I'm excited for it.
You think this is the year, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what color did you guys decide to choose on ultimately? Was it a red dragon, black dragon, green?
Maybe a purple dragon.
I mean, all the conversations, it's funny because you joke about it, but like that is an ongoing joke when people come to the studio, like, oh, where's the dragon? Don't worry, you can show it to me. We've said at some point it is going to happen, and I will be equally excited because I'll have a dragon that I can buy, but just so we can stop answering that and stop hearing people make those jokes.
Well, get it out to us already then, because we want it.
Yeah, Joe's really been dragging that one out.
It's
Did you just? Oh no,
well,
bro,
Mike
that was
did
good.
ask.
They have been dragging that out, haven't they?
Mike did ask, how can you top a bear? I mean,
Well,
there's a way.
And it's interesting because, one thing I will say, because, we talk about that. Like every single year, if we raise the bar and, we say, well, we want to make sure that we come back and we give people something they don't expect and we raise the bar again. But, one of the things to realize is it's not only about going bigger, right? The bear is such a huge, huge item. It's not only about how do you do something that's more impactful and bigger. We try to think about the presentation as a whole, like everything we have to present. And I would absolutely be happy to say that this year is just so packed. so packed. It's going to be unexpected. Like, if you've seen past G-Cons, you think you know what to expect. You don't know what to expect. This
That's all I
is
know.
totally going to be new ground.
Yeah. Well, the dragon was a joke. I mean, that's definitely something I'll be excited for when it does get announced. But I think this year, like something I'm really excited about for LegionsCon is more so than probably many of the years in the past is G-Con, is to see the reveal this year, because we've sort of been, I don't want to say spoiled, but like we sort of like it's kind of been spoiled the past 4 years. We've known it's going to be the Dark Four, and we kind of like have an idea in our mind like what to expect, even though like we're blown away every year by skeleton horses and Sir Gideon twos and bears and everything else that you guys have thrown our way. That's just blown us away from what we had imagined. But this year I actually don't know what to imagine. So like I'm really excited to see what you guys have to reveal this year, because I don't know what it's going to be like. Is it going to be more Ashes of Agbendor kind of stuff? Is it going to be characters like that survived the war? Is it going to be like a whole wave of version 2? So we finally going to get Otho 2? I mean, you guys have been dragging that out for a really long time too. We know that's coming eventually. When it's got to come eventually, like, will it be this year? Will we get like Otho and Urzak? Like, and if you do bring them to us, like, is that going to be like in the style of like the Ashes wave, where like they're going to be like after the war versions? And like, I don't know, like just to see what you guys have in store for us. I like that Ashes kind of started you guys down a road of more storytelling with with the fleshing out the characters and fleshing out like the story of Mythos. I'm really like hopeful and excited to see more of that come down, and I'm hoping that like that this wave will have more of that. In fact, I don't want to say I expect anything of you guys, but like I'm kind of hoping, like it's like a high expectation of mine, so I hope that does happen.
Okay.
But yeah, G-Con, I'm definitely really excited to see what you guys have this year, because I don't have it. Is it going to be something? Is it going to be something completely different? Are you going to bring us down like a whole different path that like no one's even like? Because you guys are really good at like blowing our minds as far as like throwing us for super curves, or we have no idea what's coming. Like we think we're gonna know what we're gonna get, and then it's like, whoa, I never saw that coming. So, are we gonna get sea elves? Are we, what, like
Sea elves,
like pirates? I don't know. Like what's coming?
Well, I've had my theory that I
Okay.
think we're gonna go across. Can I share my theory,
Yeah,
Jeremy?
go on.
And I don't know anything. I'm not an insider. I'm just a guy. Okay. I have thought about the war of these 4 demigods or gods, whatever, the 4 horsemen, and I'm like, there's been this teasing with Rhaegor and with oh gosh, the guy who's not Mike but really is Mike with his head sculpt. Zende's from another land. I'm like, I've told the guys in the podcast, I'm like, I wonder if we're gonna go across the ocean away from the continent of Mythos and find somebody new, some new resources. So I'm just super excited, like Joe was saying, with the concept that we don't know what's coming for the first time in 4 years. And it's super, super exciting. I loved Agbendor, and Mike was, I think, one of the first people to say that he's like, I hold Agbendor on the same level as like Colosseum. Yeah. And he said that, I remember when we were recording and he said that, and I was like, oh wow, that's like pretty high praise. And now I can look back on it and I'm like, yeah, I think he's right. I think he's totally right. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a couple sleepers in that wave. It's like, because that, I've said this before, but Colosseum hit at that period of time where it was right after Advent. There was a lot of new fans that were in the line that were like, they didn't have the figures yet, so they were like, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to like these. I'm going to wait on these new figures for Colosseum. And for years, those were some of the hardest to find figures because they were a little under ordered. We're going to see some of that with the Ashes wave as well. There are some big characters in that wave that fell a little bit under the radar that I got a sinking feeling that people are going to be kicking themselves. But why I love those predictions. Those are great things. As a fan, I'm totally down with you. I would love to see all that. I can't confirm or deny as a member of the studio, but as a fan, hells yeah, I'm totally down with those ideas.
Well, I want to hold your butt to the coals and just say that I'm so excited to read whatever you're writing. You know, and then there's no rush to delivering that because again, we've talked about how we are good with patience.
Yeah.
But I have loved all of your short stories and things that
Thank
you've
you.
released, and I am just so excited to read more of that. Grew up as a sci-fi nerd, fantasy
Yeah.
kid, so anything I can consume about the Horsemen and the world they've built, I'm excited about.
It's
Definitely there for all the books.
It's a cool story. Like sitting down with Eric and going through. I've said before that, you know, it's almost like he has this map that he's plotted out all the key destinations, but not necessarily how characters get from point to point or why they are going on this journey. So being able to connect those dots, you know, with Eric and then find the places that need elaboration and find opportunities to create new characters to add to the overall story. It's been an incredible pleasure of mine. Like I was saying about, you know, no one wants the figures in people's hands more than we do. Nobody wants this book in people's hands more than me because I want to geek out and talk about it with people. Like I genuinely, people that like the story, I want to be like, sit there and be like, I know, right? That character did that and he did that. And then we're all going to just geek out about how Scapular is the best character.
That's right.
Because he is.
It's going to be a race
Joe
between.
admits it now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, is that a spoiler
did.
for our episode? Go ahead, Joe. Why
I'll
don't you
hear that
share
on
it?
Monday, but I finally got Scappy Scaps myself. Yeah.
Did you?
I just picked him up first time.
Ever
I
since
gotta
your
admit,
skeleton
he's very
builder, he has crossed over to the other side. I think a little bit. I don't think he's ready to admit that yet, but I think he's. I think a little bit.
I don't think I can go that far.
Joe, skeletons are just knights without skin and armor.
Hey, we're all eventually gonna get there, but you know, why rush it? Why rush things? You know, live a noble, chivalrous life. You know, for as long as you can in the meantime.
Why I will say that when you read the story, when people read the story, I fully expect that whenever they read a scapular scene, they're going to be like, Jeremy really likes scapular. Like he puts a little bit of extra seasoning on all of those scenes because he just likes him so much.
Well, I'm excited to read that. I've got my scapular test shot somewhere around here, and I love that thing dearly.
Noah, what did you have to say?
Oh, when I read that part, it's definitely gonna be in Rich's voice from Your Allegiance.
Yes.
Scapulary. Oh, it is. It's scapula.
That works for me. He can sound like that. No problem.
Cockney.
No, what about yourself? What do you got to offer for this year's? Same questions we've been asking.
I'm kind of known as our group's great pontificator as far as when it comes to making speculations and things like that. I'm known for that. I'm kidding. I typically I try to stay away from that just because I kind of get down a pathway and then I start confusing myself. And then the next thing you know, I'm just like, well, that's probably not going to happen. Here's what I will say. I would love to see maybe some different variations on the brute scale body. I think that would be fun. I'm thinking more around the parts, the component parts. Like here's the thing. I love the figures. The figures as they come, the characters that you guys write, everything is just so amazing. But in the end, like I'm a customizer, like we've talked about, and I want more brute scale parts.
Yep, I got it.
And I'm excited for just like these guys said. There's one guarantee is that you guys are going to be subverting expectations, but all expectations besides what we're expecting is something awesome.
Cool.
That's the only. I mean, we've talked about like different factions and things like that, and I think all those ideas are great. But in the end, just more cool stuff.
More cool stuff. And I think one thing I always want to come through, and I think it really does come through, is not only are we going to put out cool stuff, are we going to subvert expectations, but we're going to do what we want to do. And I don't say that like in a cocky, like jerk-like way. It's, the recipe for this line and this company since the early days has been believe in what you're creating. Like, put out stuff that you genuinely love, because at the end of the day, that is what has worked for us. Eric, you and I have talked about this a number of times, that, that genuine love of what we are creating, the stories and the characters, that has to shine through in the product that you're creating. And, I like to think that we've been able to maintain that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what initially got me into Four Horsemen in the first place was, they were just making things that no one else was making. And it's hard not to notice that, and I've talked at length about like the treadaway aesthetic, but I just gravitate towards it. I think it's just because he's a genuine guy that genuinely loves what he does, and that it comes across in everything that he makes. And I'm on board for it. Like, I mean, I'll never not be a Four Horsemen guy. Yeah,
I get to see I get to see all of Eric's in progress work and stuff. And my favorite stuff that I see from Eric is when he says, he shows me a teaser of something, which, to this day, when I get a text from Eric Treadaway with a render of a new figure, it's like, there's still part of me that's like pinching myself. But my favorite thing is when I look at it and I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And it's just the start. And like, it's almost like when you would see Bob Ross paint paintings and it would be perfect. And then he'd be like, we're just going to put this here. And you're like, whoa, why are you changing it? And then he does that. You're like, darn it, that looks great. You totally improved it. Eric does that all the time, where he just knows how to keep layering on that stuff to get it to where it's got to be. Good.
Can I say something real quick, Noah?
Yeah.
I was on that topic of Eric being a genius. Both of our Erics. No, just Eric hates that. Our Eric hates that. I'm sure the other Eric hates that too. But I was fortunate that in 21 I got to hang out and go to the intern experience and get to watch Eric Treadway do a sculpt, like from just prompts that people gave. And I think this experience is similar whether you were in my group or whether you were in another group. Treadaway just ripped out an incredible sculpt, like, I don't know, in 25 minutes, like 30 minutes, right? And I was just like, that was probably, there's all these amazing creators, there's amazing people to get to hang out with, amazing figures and toys to buy. But there was something about just sitting there and experiencing that where I was like, yeah, I feel right in collecting this stuff because this guy is really, really good at it, and I don't know how else to put that,
Noah, you had something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think I speak for a lot of us fellow fans that, like Jeremy, we kind of look at you as like you're more or less our representative there. I mean, you are
Appreciate that.
a fan. You are our spokesperson. There.
He's our CEO, right?
Let's not forget that.
Our chief enabling officer.
Enabling officer, which
Absolutely.
Cornboy now calls me that. Like,
That's awesome.
literally, like, refers to that as like my title.
That's awesome. But so, like, the fact that you're there and we feel like we have a really strong presence inside of the studio. But I just want to say that's always kind of been the vibe that I've got from Eric Treadaway and Cornboy and Jim and all those guys, like, to varying degrees. But I just think that everybody in there just is so excited about what they're doing and just fans of toys in general. Like these guys said, it comes through very clearly. And me personally as a fan, it makes me feel validated in that, just knowing that you guys are just like me, excited about all this stuff. We all geek out together.
It's funny because, like, so I was at the studio all last week, and whenever something new is going on, whether, if like a new package comes in from China with prototypes to look at, everything just stops because everyone's genuinely interested. Even people that it's not their direct job to be involved in what's in that box, they want to see it because they're a fan and they're excited for it. Like they want to see it from that perspective. They always joke at the studio. I mentioned earlier that I had to take the LegionsCon figures home for marketing reasons. That's a running joke at the studio because whenever anything comes in, I'm always like, Diego, can you please send me 2 of those for marketing reasons? And it's one of those things where it's true. Like I actually do use it. Like there have been times where I've posed things to show like if Trevor and I are talking about something and it's easier if I can pose it and show him. Now we all know that I could just use a different figure and pose it that way, but it's not as impactful than if I pose the new one. So I do use them, but yeah, I ask for it because I'm a fan and I want them as soon as possible.
No different than any one of us.
No, not at all.
Right. We talked about, if I can interject on that comment, like when we were all there on 21 doing our intern experience, one of the last things that we saw that hadn't been revealed up until recently was that centaur head that got used on the Shadow Centaur for Agbendor. And
where did you see that? Was that in Cameron's office?
I think it was in Cameron's office. Do you remember, Joe?
Yeah, we were peeking in the trays when
Jeremy's
we were
making notes.
listening to Cameron tell us how he paints figures, and we're like, look over there.
I was like, oh my god, that is definitely, because I think, well, when Poxus was revealed, Alithia and the Cylona factions, those 2 had been revealed as well. Yep. So I was like, I think that's a centaur. Yeah. I think that's a centaur head, and it took 3 years later for that to be revealed. So I just wanted to throw that in there. It must be hard for you as a fan, and I think a lot of the people that are in the studio are also fans as well. To wait and hold your tongue, knowing that there's so much cool stuff coming down the pipeline, maybe years in advance.
I've talked about this where it's not hard to keep it a secret because it's quite literally my job. So from that perspective, it's got to happen.
You got to do it. Yeah.
You got to do it. But I've always said that it's kind of like, parents giving kids presents on Christmas and stuff where you are excited for the reveal. You are excited for them to revel in the surprise and everything. So I always look at it from that perspective. But yeah, like I know when I'm going to reveal things, and I spring out of bed on those mornings. I'm an early riser anyway, but I'm like excited to grab my coffee, get my phone, and be like, bang, I'm going to hit post. And I just know that it's like a boom, enabled. There we go. I'm excited for that. This morning, being able to get up and announce to everybody that the retailer wave is on the water. It's probably going to be in hand. It should be at the factory, should be at the warehouse in early November. We'll get it shipped out to retailers. And then by the end of November, that street day will hit and those will be in hand. Excited to be able to share stuff like that and then see people also getting excited for that news. So it's not hard to keep it in, but it's really exciting to be able to let it out.
I think piggybacking on what you're saying there, and it's also like trailing off of what Noah was saying earlier about like Treadaway, like, and you guys all like feeling like you're not just making toys, but you're part of the community, like you're representatives of us, and like you're fans of toys just like us. Like, I think like a way of like that I think about it is like when I think about people at Hasbro, and this could be totally wrong, but when I think about people at Hasbro, like I don't picture them getting up out of bed and being like super excited to go make and produce toys. Like I think of it like a big company like Hasbro or Mattel, like that's their job, and they go there and they work like they're punching in for like their 9 to 5, whatever.
Sure.
And with you guys, like you can definitely tell. Like I could picture like Treadaway like talking to you or like sending you pictures, to be like, hey, check this out, man. What do you think about this? And like him being excited to reveal it to you because he wants to he wants to see what you think, knowing you're a fan, and then he's also a fan, and like you guys probably like feed off of that vibe with each other a lot.
For sure.
I picture that at the studio happening, but like I see it on you guys too when I meet you guys in person. Like you can see that you guys are actually not just doing this to make a buck. You guys are doing this, it's a career, and I'm sure you guys are very successful at it because it's your passion.
Yep. Yeah, that's why we do some of the stuff we do. I mean, the fact that we haven't raised prices in all these years is because we're not we're not a corporation that has shareholders, that it's, the focus is constantly maximizing the amount of profits. And that's not a knock on any company. That's how companies run. Companies that have shareholders, they're beholden to the shareholders. We don't have that. We're beholden to our fan base. We're beholden to, we want to be able to provide a great work environment and life for the people that work there by being able to do right by those who support our studio and our products. And if you really have that perspective, it's easy to kind of make some of the decisions that we've made where we're like, yeah, we could raise prices. It's costing us more at the factories to produce these things, but we're still doing really well and we don't have to raise prices. So let's keep them where they are.
And I think that's why you guys will always outlast what may come, in the future. I really believe that.
It's funny that you brought that up too, because that's another topic that we touched on in our
Is
last
it?
episode. It's very, very on topic. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Just a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
We get it, and we love you guys for it.
Yeah. And we appreciate that very much. I am excited for this year. I've, taking off the marketing hat and everything, as a fan, I know what's going to happen at GCon and at LegionsCon this year. And as a fan, I'm just like, holy shit. This is, Jeremy just said a bad word, so it's getting hairy in here. This is going to be an absolutely epic year. I mean, yes, all of the fans, having everyone there, that community aspect of stuff. This morning, I was looking at some photos from the hotel. I was at the hotel last week, planning out stuff, and just looking through those photos and seeing all those smiling faces. It's just like, I'm so ready to go do that again in 7 weeks.
Us too.
That's from all of us.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I got a tiny taste of it when I went to the California Mythic meetup, and I got to talk to Walt and talk to Nate and all the folks up there, Timothy Fung. And I'm so excited to get to hang out with more Legions guys again.
Does Timothy come up to LegionsCon? I don't know.
I don't think he does. He's a little bit younger than me. I think he's, sorry, Timothy, if I'm overstepping my bounds. I think he's still in school. I think he's still dealing with that kind of stuff. So I think he's a little preoccupied.
Something to look forward to. There we go. We'll have him in future years. Because I'm hoping that we're doing this for quite a few more years. We're trying to build something that's gonna be around for a while.
Well, Jeremy, I think you've done a great job. If I could say, like, when we were talking earlier, when we first got on the topic of LegionsCon, I was thinking about, I kind of watch a lot of toy tubers on YouTube, Big Dub, who was in the chat earlier, and Bill Dorclair, and just all kinds of folks. And they go to the Great Ohio Toy Show and all kinds of places. They do toy hunts, Pixel Dan. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, of all these videos that I've watched, and I haven't been to a lot of these places because a lot of them are on the East Coast, but of all these videos I've watched, I don't think any of them capture the kind of camaraderie and community that LegionsCon has. Like, I think, like at big G.I. Joe toy events or whatever, large toy show events, vendors know each other. But there's this interesting, mishmash or I don't know what it is, melting pot of fans and people who work at the studio and creators who are fans. And, it's all the stuff that comes together at LegionsCon that's like unlike anything I've ever seen. And I'm really excited. I know you guys recently said that Robo was coming.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of Robo, and I'm so excited to get to talk to him too. So I just think that LegionsCon is something that's so special, and I don't know how it came about. Maybe it's your guys' goodwill that you've had for so long with the fans, but it's just an amazing thing that you guys have that really doesn't seem like anything else I've seen before.
It's unique. It's unique, and
it's really unique.
It's interesting you bring that up, Wyatt, because this is a year, because we've had toy tubers at the show in past years, but they're toy tubers that are kind of there because they like Legions, right? We've had Dan Larson come. We've had, Big Dub was there last year, and he did do a lot of video. He recorded the whole thing, Kent Poole as well. So there have been, Dorklair and Toy Bro. There was a lot of people that have come over the years, Nolan Collects, that are covering the event and really love it. But I still feel like it's a little under the radar in the larger like Toy Con kind of community. So to see people like Robo coming this year, Unparalleled Universe and stuff, Wade, my great hope is that these guys come and they're just like, holy hell, I've never seen a community in an experience like that. Just the outpouring of love and how just tight everybody was from, Friday or Thursday. Because you guys, you've talked about it on the show, so it's not revealing anything. You're all going to be with us for 4 straight days. You're coming to intern. You're going to be there for G-Con. To be there for all of that experience, I really think that, or I'm hoping that some of these people who this is their first time there, they're going to walk away and they're just going to be like, wow, I can't believe that this is my first time going.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You got to invite Robo. You got to invite Robo to the lobby after. You got to invite all those guys that are coming, because you just said it really well. Like they're gonna, like, you're hoping that they get to see the camaraderie that's there at that show that they haven't experienced at probably big shows like Toy Con and other stuff like that. But like the real camaraderie comes out. Like it's definitely there during the show, but sure. But that lobby, that's like the best part, is that lobby experience afterwards. Everyone just really just relaxed and just enjoying themselves.
And I would encourage anybody who's gone before or is going this year or what have you, that you just invite people into your fold, because like I remember going to the intern event, and that's where I met Eric Miller for the first time that morning. And Eric had already sent me, we had done a trade, whatever we talked about in the podcast. He sent me an amazing Fury Orc head that I treasure to this day. But I met Eric in the lobby before we left, like to go to the studio, and it was just so easy, and that was the experience. I was across the hall from Trevor from 1/6 Shooter and Nate Strong, like at LegionsCon 21, and like we were just right across the hall from each other. Well, I had no idea, but I was just like, these guys are just the kindest people ever, and so I think that's one of the amazing things, and one of the things I would love to see go forward in with LegionsCons, in the future, in our upcoming one, is just be so welcoming, because I think that I've felt so welcome when I went there, and I think we've all kind of had that experience where it's like, doesn't matter your background or how well you know somebody, it's just everybody's super kind and willing to help one another. So yeah.
Jeremy, you asked earlier what I was looking forward to for this LegionsCon.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'm looking forward to is Wyatt seeing how big it's grown since what was it, 20? Yeah, since
21.
Yeah. Because remember when we hung out in like that little coffee break room of the was it Daisy or whatever it was, like, for him to see how big this has grown, I can't wait to see Wyatt's reaction to what this has become, because he saw what it was before, but he hasn't seen what it is now.
I'm so jazzed.
And it's interesting because this is the 6th year. This is LegionsCon 6. And in a lot of ways, it almost feels like LegionsCon 3 to me, because like that first year was just such an accident. It was, it was literally meant to just be, hey, let's have a handful of people that are local get together and meet up. And the fact that, Nikki flew in and Dennis flew in and Walter flew in, like that took us by surprise when that happened. So that year, like I said, it's almost like the prequel, the precursor. And then we had the COVID year, of course. So really that 2021, the year that you guys all did intern, the year that you guys all met, the Sir Gerard year, that's how I happen to remember.
Oh, yeah. I got him, the shelf right here. He's up at the top. Right there.
We go. Where he should be. Where he should be. It's up at the top of mine, too. Although I will say that my Sir Gerard is positioned. I position them all differently. I'll grab it.
Everybody grab your Sir Gerard.
I position them all differently. So I position mine to like look like he's just doing this. And I like to imagine it's because he's dealing with Walter. And Walter the Mad, who my Walter the Mad has a taco.
Hey.
And a beer.
So this is Sir Gerard is just kind of like, oh man, and Walter's just doing his thing. So
That is art
Well,
imitating life for sure.
You know, Jeremy, I was before our episode, before we were doing this, and you invited us to do it. I was like, what questions can I ask Jeremy? Like, I still had I don't like to call myself the host because Noah did such a great job. If anybody's been listening to the Mythic Enablers podcast,
he has.
I've been absent for the past couple episodes, and Noah is probably, whether you know it or not, behind the scenes, like the real host. Like, he's the producer. He does a lot of that stuff, and he's done an amazing job. But I was thinking to myself, like, what questions can I ask Jeremy on our live show tonight? And I was wondering, Jeremy, when you ever feel like joint pain, I'm like, are you wondering if somebody's popping swapping you somewhere in the world? Like, are you getting voodoo dolled whenever you're like, ooh, yeah, somebody just definitely just pop and swap me. That was the only thing I could come up with.
Wow.
That's a
Well,
great
but
question.
yeah, Joe, I agree. That's seeing Wyatt's reaction is going to be good. But why something you were saying a minute ago, I think, is because you gave some advice to people that are coming to LegionsCon. I absolutely echo that advice. The fact you guys are a testament to what this community can be at its best when you're willing to open yourself up and be in an environment and meet new people. The fact that you all met at LegionsCon 21 and became such good friends is a great story, a great testament to that. But I echo that feedback is be a part of the show. Like, if a lot of people travel to LegionsCon alone, you're not alone once you get there. Like, come out of your room, go to the lobby. Don't feel like if you go step up into a conversation that they're going to be like, what the hell is this person there? They're going to absolutely welcome you. They're going to be happy to have you as part of that. And you're going to have, there's going to be conversations and groups everywhere. So insert yourself, be a part of that. There's nothing to fear. Guys, any other advice that you would have, whether it's a first timer or what have you, to get the most out of this experience?
No, you hit it really, really, really on the head about just kind of going out of your shell a little bit, and if you don't like socializing with people, just come out of your comfort zone just a little bit, because I think you'll be surprised at how easy it is and how good you'll feel.
This was, if I could say, this was like when I went in 21. I was 24 years old, and this was like the first single trip I had ever taken, where I had just flown by myself, booked a hotel, and done everything by myself. And I made some of the greatest friends I could have ever hoped to have made.
Wyatt, you just made me feel so old, dude. So old.
Well, I didn't go with any expectation. I didn't know really anybody. The thing was I had been involved in the community, and people came up to me and were like, oh yeah, I bought something from you, or I remember your post you posted, or whatever. And it was really sweet, because that's what the community is it's like people who aren't sort of what's the word? There's not a lot of pomp, It's like, I recognize you. Like, let's talk, and that was I met Greg for the first time, and Eric and Joe and Noah and Jeremy and, so many people, Frank, everybody from the studio. Yep. So I would just say Rodney. Oh my God. Rodney lives like 20 miles away from me. The Rod Father himself, the behind Colin Culp and one of the number one test shot collectors. We hang out all the time, where we hang out when we can. But the point is it's like, it's just amazing what you'll experience when you go there, and you go there with an open mind, and just be open to these experiences. Go out and talk to people and just strike up a conversation, because you'll never know who will become really great friends. Yeah.
No, I got to tell you, when you sent me this photo, the first thing I thought about when I saw it is every one of these guys, you guys still all look like that. I was like, I have aged so much in the last 4 years.
No, you have not. No way.
My beard is all white now. I look like that. And then Noah, you just made me feel like an old man there. So it's okay. It's okay. I'm okay being the elder statesman.
You're the CEO. You're the CEO.
There we go.
He's the CEO.
There we go.
I wanted to add something really quick
Yeah,
too.
please.
Sorry, I know we're getting towards the end, but
No, just
I've been holding it in for a minute.
Let it out, Eric.
So we were
Let it
talking
out.
about like the outpouring of love from the community,
Yeah.
and you see that firsthand at LegionsCon, which is totally true. But
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I think a lot of people fail to mention is that we see the outpouring of love as fans from the studio as well. It's a cyclical thing, and
Sure.
I think that there's something magical about that, because every ounce of energy that we as fans put into adoring this line and loving each other in the community, we see every ounce of that energy just reflected right back at us from the studio. And you just can't put into words how amazing that is. It's revitalizing
Yep.
on so many different levels, and it's so refreshing. And I just want to say, as fans, like, we appreciate the energy the studio puts into it too, because you guys have every reason to just green room that thing and just stay backstage the whole time, but that is not what happens, and we appreciate it. I just wanted to say that.
well,
You're here.
I appreciate you recognizing that. I mean, that's what we're there for. We're there. We want to be a part of it. We want to hang out. We joke around that, Eric Treadaway lives 15 minutes, 20 minutes from the hotel. He stays at the hotel the whole time because he doesn't want to say, like, well, I'm going to go home and I'll be back in the morning. Like, that is one key, by the way. Eric Treadaway will close out that lobby. Like, he'll go upstairs at like 4:00 in the morning. Like, he is there
Champion.
late. So he's not like at 9:00. Even I, who am notoriously go to bed early, I will stay up late, but nowhere near as late as Eric Treadaway. Eric and Bill are usually two that can really be counted on to close that lobby out.
You heard
That's-
it here, people. Eric Treadaway's
Yeah.
dancing on tables at 4 a.m. in the morning, partying hard. Bring
Stick
it
around
home.
to see the after show.
Well, because he'll be downstairs. Show starts at 8:00. He'll be downstairs, and he's just like, oh man, didn't get much sleep. And I was like, how did you go upstairs? And he was like, 4:00. Yep, absolutely. There was a situation last year that, because there was a wedding in the hotel last year, I think on the Friday night, and they had left some of the, like, some stuff out and everything. They had left a mess. And apparently, like, Chris James and other members of LegionsCon were like cleaning up the mess that the wedding party had left, which is just, I mean, that story right there proves why, or explains why, the hotel is genuinely so excited to have us back. Joe, you told this story on the podcast recently, but it's worth repeating for those that may not have heard it. You called the hotel recently just to check to make sure your reservation was okay. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Oh yeah, I just called the hotel just to confirm my reservation. I wasn't sure if I had booked that the day for intern as well too, so I wanted to make sure I had gotten that extra day. And when I called them up, the girl was reviewing my reservation, and I'm assuming she was looking down at her screen, at her computer screen, and she looks down and she goes, "Oh, I see you get you're in here for Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and checking out Sunday, and you used code LegionsCon 24. Oh, LegionsCon. Oh, you guys are with Mythic Legions. You guys are coming back this year?" And she goes, "You guys were so great. I'm so happy you guys decided to come back." And like literally her voice over the phone, like I could hear her smiling, like from ear to ear, like I could, like, without any like hint that there was any fakeness or anything to it. Like she was genuinely excited, and the dawning of like recognition like was so easy to like just pick up from her. And I thought that was really, really, really cool that she remembered us from last year, and just like seeing the words LegionsCon on my reservation like
Was
put a
enough.
smile on her face, and it put a big smile on my face too. And she was definitely like happy to welcome us back again. So yeah, it's definitely cool, like that the hotel looks at us that way. What was the guy that was working at the hotel? I can't remember his name, but he was like the engineer of the hotel, and he was happy with us because we were helping clean up and keep things clean.
For sure.
He became a friend of a lot of ours. Like, Chris James would remember his name.
So I checked in this past week, and the night I'm checking in, I go to the front desk, and the guy, I've never seen the guy who's checking me in before, because I do stay there quite a bit. And somebody else comes up while I'm checking in who recognized me. And I did have my Mythic Legion sweatshirt on. And he was like, hey, really nice to see you again. We're so excited for, November to have you guys here in a couple months and stuff. So I'm talking to him, and the guy behind the counter who's checking me in is like, what the heck's going on here? And he's like, what are you guys talking about? And this guy who works there is like, they have this show called LegionsCon. They did it last year. They're doing it again. It's so much fun. Check this out. And he pulls out his phone, and he's got a photo of himself with Kurzog, the giant. It's like right on his phone. He's like, look at this. They have this stuff here in the hallways. So the fact that they internally are talking about that, it's so cool. And again, it's proof of what we all know, being a part of this community, that there is something special about what the Horsemen have been able to build, about the people that they've brought into this community, that have found belonging and acceptance and joy within this community. It is something special, and I'm very much looking forward to being able to share that again in a couple months. 7 weeks, guys. 7 weeks.
Wow.
That's so soon.
7 weeks from tonight, I will be at the studio doing doing episode 200, my annual, kicking off Mythic weekend show. And other people will all probably be at the hotel by the fire pit, hopefully watching the show, getting ready for intern the next day. 7 weeks, guys.
I can't wait to be there.
Fast enough. Yeah. Can't come quick enough.
I need it to come just a little bit slower.
He's like, I got a couple more heads to paint.
Up.
And you, on that note, Eric, you had mentioned previously that you tend to stress out about making sure you have a certain amount of stuff, but it sounds like when I was talking to you at LegionsCon, you're trying to be a little calmer this year, and just what you've got is what you've got, and you've got some cool stuff to display, but you're not putting as much pressure on you, is what you said. And I think that's a great way to approach this.
I'm trying. It's easier said than done, but yeah, it's I kept it simple as far as personal projects go, and like as of I think yesterday, I think I finished everything that I had to finish. So yeah, the rest of this time is just like painting heads and stuff. So I'll get done when I get done. There's gonna be some stuff there, but yeah, I'm more worried about just enjoying the show. So
yeah, it's what it's for. If I go back, Eric, to that 2021 show that you were an exhibitor at, Noah, obviously we were just talking about you being there with some dials at Wolf King. I don't think at that show everyone was so focused on selling. Like at that show, everyone was just like, I can remember Eric LeBron's table just being filled with stuff and people asking him to sell. And he was like, nah, man, these are just for display. Joe Vassapolo as well, Eric, yourself. And I love the fact that there's items for sale at LegionsCon. I love the fact that people are able to buy stuff from their favorite artists. But on a personal level, and I sell stuff, on a personal level, I love the art exhibit aspect of LegionsCon. That is always, we talk about seeing the people in the community, family reunion aspect. I absolutely love that. But that art exhibit aspect of LegionsCon is one of the things that I don't think gets as much attention these days, that I think is a very special part of the show.
Yeah, that was a really big deal. That first show, I put out a post after my experience there, like over the next week, and it actually turned into 3 posts because I had like the distinct pleasure of walking around and taking pictures of everybody's customs at the show. I just went to every table and I just took pictures of customs as they went down, and they were really for me. But I was like, you know what, this is really cool. And I was, I'm tied into the cabal, and I know a lot of people didn't get to make it. I'm like, I'm going to share some of these customs so people could see like how cool some of this creativity that these artists have. This art and like you said, it was like art exhibits for a lot of them, and and I started putting these into posts, which I didn't know Facebook will only allow you to have so many photos in a post. So it ended up turning into 3 posts of pictures, and I think each one had like close to 100 pictures in each one, and it just turned into this huge thing. But it was incredible.
Yeah.
And sometimes I go back on my phone and look at those pictures, because that particular show I was able to get around and really get to see all of them. And you're 100% right. Like, that was such a cool vibe on that show. Just the artistic aspect of that was cool, and it's still there. That aspect is still in all of it there now as well too. It's just grown.
Oh yeah.
I think that
again, talking to Eric, hearing Eric say that he's going to paint what he's going to paint for their heads that'll be for sale or whatever, but his special projects that he's working on, that those are a priority. Eric, I absolutely love the fact that you make display items a priority for LegionsCon. That's something I hope we never lose.
An Eric exclusive. Yeah.
I oftentimes wonder how many people actually care, like if there's something new at LegionsCon or whatever at my table, but it keeps me going. Like, it gives me a goal I can work towards. Like, I need to get this stuff done by LegionsCon, and this is the standard that I set for myself for it. So like, I think it's just as much for me as it is for everyone else. Like, I like just having something new on the table and something that I can pour myself into throughout the year. And, I oftentimes worry about quantity and stuff like that, but I can say, like, I pour so much of myself into those projects, and I do try to up my personal standard for it every year. Whether or not that translates, I don't know. Like, but if I can feel like I did something special, like that's good enough for me. And then hopefully people just like it too.
Eric's very humble. I didn't realize that he didn't even sell anything in 2021 when I was there. So like, when I was there and I have pictures on my phone of taking pictures of Eric at his booth, like, his booth was such a draw, and he wasn't even selling anything. He was just showing off really cool stuff.
It honestly didn't even cross my mind that I should take stuff to sell, but so many people requested it that it just kind of became a thing after that. So
I can personally attest to that. People will want to stop by Eric's booth this year to see the new stuff he's bringing, because I've seen what he's doing, and he really means it when he says he tries to just do better each year and like top himself. Like, he's definitely doing that this year.
I will tell you, Eric, that I could have asked you, because we've talked about you're doing some stuff, and I've never asked you what you are doing at IshCon. It was on the tip of my tongue to say, like, tell me what you're doing, and I intentionally didn't, because I want to be surprised. I want to be able to go to your table and genuinely be like, have that reveal moment to discover what it is you've been working on. So I'm super excited, man. That's going to be great.
And I told you guys this at IshCon, but I want to be there when Eric sees my table. I didn't get to see that last year. I wasn't there when he saw my stuff, and I was like, dang it.
We're gonna make sure that happens
for sure.
Noah, how about yourself? How are you making out with LegionsCon prep? I know you've been a busy bee working on all these new sculpts with Jeremy Wilson of Monster Machine Creations. You're going to have some cool stuff from that perspective. Obviously, the enablers are going to have pins and all kinds of cool stuff. But how about your particular projects? How are you making out?
So I this whole time I have been trying to tell myself that I'm not going to freak out about preparation and everything like that. And contrary to what I tell myself and all the lies, it just, as Eric kind of alluded to, that you have that kind of preparatory. That's a word, right?
Sure.
Preparatory freak out. And I'm kind of in that mode right now, but realistically, kind of like I had said to these guys before, I'm going to do my best to just be cool with whatever I have. I do have a large number of heads that I've painted throughout the year. I've said a few times that that's something that I'm able to do. It's cathartic. It's something that I can sit at my kitchen counter, and I have a little area there where I can be in contact with my family. I don't have to be away. Fortunately, I have different areas that I can work in my shop and things like that. So I've got heads that I've painted. I've got the projects that I've been working on. I'm going to try and have some small diorama pieces, but I'm not going to overpromise on anything like that. I'm going to have some full customs. I've shared pretty much everything that I've got so far, but I do plan on pouring on the coals and getting kind of coming down to crunch time as we go. Contrary to what I tell myself that I'm not going to freak out.
Well, guys, it is now 9:20. We've gone 20 minutes longer than I promised you I would keep you, but I'm so excited. I'm enjoying the conversation so much that I was hesitant to end it, but I will let you guys all get back. It is past Jeremy's bedtime. He's got to get to bed. So thank you all very much for joining me this evening. Thank you to Mike, who had to jump out a little bit early. Guys, we've been saying it all night, but I can't wait to hang out with you in 7 weeks. It's going to be an absolute blast.
It's going to be awesome, Jeremy. I could do this all night.
I can do this well, absolutely. Guys, despite the fact that I just said I'm going to let you go, hang out in the green room. I'm going to play some happy music to get everyone out, and then we'll close it out.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you all, everyone. I will be back here next week. I will have a very special guest on my show next week. Can't let you know what the topic is just yet. You'll just have to tune in next week to find out for yourself. I'll see you then.